So with that said, let's get going. And anybody who comes in late, they'll just kind of join us where we're at. And hopefully you're coming to the right webinar. The one today is on top OKR tips from John Doerr. OKR or OKRs is objectives and key results. Hopefully you'll learn a ton. John Doerr is amazing. We're going to talk a lot about um, the book that he wrote. I actually have it here with me, actually holding in my hands right now, just looking randomly at page 56 where I highlighted a lot of stuff. So the whole page is highlighted. Great book, and we'll talk about it. And someone here, Daksha said, hello, this is Daksha from India, 10:30 p.m. in India. Daksha, thank you so much for joining us. Pleasure to have you here, and thank you so much for making the time this late in your day. And hopefully this will prove to be useful for you, and you're not going to get off the webinar and say, wow, that was a totally wasted time. Hopefully that won't happen, but please do contact me in the end if it is. So let's talk about John Doerr and Measure What Matters, his book. So who's John Doerr? Well, I'm sure most of you know John Doerr. He's a world-renowned venture capitalist. Began his career in mid-70s at Intel, where he learned OKRs from Intel's great CEO, Andy Grove, one of the most respected CEOs, not only in the technology industry, but overall. And John Doerr learned a lot about, some of the best practices in managing successful organizations from Andy Grove. And John Doerr is also an investor in Google, in Amazon, in Twitter, Intuit, Symantec, Exxon, et cetera, et cetera. The companies that he has backed have created more than 300,000 new jobs. Amazing. So he's a brilliant individual, a brilliant investor, and an amazing manager. So moving on, he published this book. He launched it this year, Measure What Matters. And I like this subtitle, and who doesn't, right? How Google, Bono, and Bill Gates and the Gates Foundation rock the world with OKRs, and particularly Bono, right? Like I read all these books about business. I've probably read, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of books on, organizational behavior management, managing companies with objectives and metrics. I'm a total geek when it comes to business nonfiction, and the fact that this book covers Bono is absolutely an attractive subtitle here. And I read the book, I loved it. Larry Page, to whom John Doerr, obviously John Doerr discusses how he met the small Google team early on in Google's formative days. And I think if I remember correctly, there's a ping pong table, and John Doerr had an hour and a half to present the whole team about OKRs. But Larry Page, one of the two co-founders of Google, said, look, I wish I had this book 19 years ago when we founded Google, because this book is absolutely, it's so detailed. It has so much information. I think, John Doerr's 1.5 hour presentation here at the ping pong table with a small formative Google team probably covered only a fraction of what he finally published in this book this year. I highly recommend to all of you to pick this up. It's really great. So Bill Gates himself wrote a review on his own website called Gates Notes, the blog of Bill Gates, and he wrote about management tips from a brilliant business leader. If Bill Gates is going to write a review on his website, Bill Gates, he's sort of a busy person. He runs one of the largest, if not the largest, nonprofit sort of foundation, and his family foundation, focused on incredibly important goals or objectives and key results of, getting rid of global diseases like malaria. He's working with, with a goal right now of getting rid of Alzheimer's. Like, he's doing some amazing things, and he's traveling globally. He's very busy, but yet he wrote a review of this book because it's that important. It's that effective of a book for every manager of any organization globally to read and get involved with using objectives and key results. Reid Hoffman, who, he's a co-founder of LinkedIn, and he was one of the key folks at PayPal early on. He's now on the board of Microsoft because LinkedIn was acquired by Microsoft, and an incredible individual. I listen to his podcast. He has a podcast about scaling companies. He's a really, really brilliant person, brilliant entrepreneur, and brilliant business manager. He also took time out of his extremely busy schedule. Again, he's on a board of Microsoft, and he wrote a review of this book on LinkedIn. And obviously, you can buy this book. I'm not promoting John Doerr. He's not paying me to endorse his book. I actually never met him, but I think, for some reason, I can't recall exactly. I went to Harvard Business School, and I think I saw him speak. But I just can't remember for sure. It's really funny. Like I keep having that vision in my head, but for some reason I'm not quite sure if it's that or just watched the video of him. But he went to Harvard Business School as well. He's a well-known alumnus. But he is not paying me for this. But I have a tremendous amount of respect and admiration for him on many different levels. And I highly recommend for all of you to get this book and look at the ratings. It has a lot of very, very high ratings. So let's talk about the OKR Revolution. First of all, and this is before we get into the insights from John Doerr. So we're just going to kind of like lay the foundation and then start like going deep into John Doerr's own insights. But just to lay the foundation, what are the challenges that companies face? And look, the challenges are tremendous. But just really boiling it down to things that directly connect to the concept of managing your organization, your company, your business unit, or your team, or even your own work with objectives and key results. Look, 95% of employees of any typical company, right, as studied at Harvard Business School by two professors who are world renowned in the subject matter of strategy, Robert Kaplan and David Norton. They are very famous professors at Harvard, and they invented the balanced scorecard and the strategic maps and everything, and all the strategy conversations cannot be had without mentioning Kaplan and Norton. And they basically analyzed a lot of different companies and combined it into the statistic that on average 95% of employees actually don't fully understand your company's strategy or your company's goals, or even these own individuals don't even understand their own goals. This is like the most profound component of this statement, that 95% of people ultimately don't even understand their own goals and how they connect to what matters and what the top goals of the company are. And that's unbelievable, right? Like, it's actually pretty bad that 95% don't know the company's goals, but that they don't even have their own goals put together with their manager. That's incredible. Another statistic is that 40% of global CEOs cite failure to align internally, to align their teams, their companies, as the single greatest challenge to executing strategy. 84% of companies are not using their workforce to its full potential, and that has to do a lot with setting clear objectives and aligning people, right, so that they can work effectively to achieve the full potential of that workforce. And corporate executive board, which is now part of Gartner, I think everyone knows Gartner, they said that 50% of average workforce time is just wasted on non-productive work. And when you don't have clear objectives, right, if your manager doesn't set clear objectives, or the CEO and the executive team, so folks are just not focused on what truly matters. And we're going to see this recurring concept throughout this presentation of OKRs, helping you communicate clearly what truly matters. Truly matters. And by the way, I see some folks asking, will the slides be shared? We will provide an email later, and basically through this email, we'll offer folks to get the slides, and you'll see that at the end. Look, in the Brookings Institute and the Society for Human Resource Management, obviously all about human resources, humans, people, your workforce of your organization, right? They did a study and they found that when you look at, income statements of any typical organization, on average, the amount of money that goes towards your workforce, from salaries to full compensation, bonuses, etc., benefits, and everything else invested in your employees, training, coaching, management, it's 70% of everything you spend. So for every, $100 for every $100 million, 70 million of that 100 million is going into your workforce, your people. So if you look back and sort of retrospectively assess the couple of past data points I provided on prior slides, and your employees are not clear about their objectives, they're not clear about the corporate objectives, they're being non-productive, etc., you're paying 70% for that lack of productivity boiling up and bottling up at your company. That's extremely expensive for the workforce that you are not able to align and to get to work efficiently and effectively to produce the best possible results. So this is not anecdotal data. This is real, right? This is real. I'm not trying to sell you on some hypothetical, ethereal concept. This is studied and data-driven outcome of research. And the problem is that people don't realize they're not measuring it internally and they're not seeing it clearly. But it is real. The cost and the problem and the ineffectiveness is as real as it gets. Now, what are OKRs? And I'm going to tell you what John Doerr defines as OKRs, but I'll tell you, OKRs from me, we've helped hundreds of companies out there to implement OKRs effectively and pragmatically, not in an ethereal, hypothetical way, but in a very real way that actually works. So we know exactly how they help companies. And my approach is this. It's a management methodology that basically is used to align everybody at your company, focus everyone's effort on what really, truly matters. Right? Let that sink in. Focus on what truly matters and make all progress measurable. Right? Not just be busy bees, right? Not just be busy, but make the progress of the organization measurable. If you're just a manager, frontline manager of a team and not a senior executive, you want your team's progress to be measurable, right? And so that you can ultimately achieve the top corporate objectives as a whole organization and accelerate the business performance and results. And it's only with goals, with OKRs, that you can accelerate results, and I'll show you how. Look, Google made OKRs extremely popular worldwide, that 500,000 people viewed their video. And this is like an hour and a half long video, to be more precise, 80 something minutes. Who watches a video that's an hour and a half long about setting objectives and managing organizations more effectively with objectives? Certainly not just some random people. It's usually managers or executives of companies that want to be successful. And there's only so many of those. It's not any average consumer that would watch this video, which means that 500,000 of that cohort of people is a very significant number. And then there's a book, Work Rules, by former senior vice president of people operations at Google, who published a lot of insights and OKRs that Google uses in this book, Work Rules. And it became really popular in the past 5 years. And then Google published this website called Rework, and it says that research shows that performance is higher when people are committed to their goals. And all the information there on Rework's website about OKRs basically is rooted in this concept that Google uses it because they've done research, and Google is a very data-driven organization. And they know that the performance is higher by using OKRs, period. Right? Google said this. They know the data. They've worked it out and realized this is a magic wand. A magic wand, but not a silver bullet. Let's put it that way, and I'll show you why in a couple of slides. And ultimately, it's a simple tool. There are no rigid rules, right? It's not like generally accepted accounting principles, GAAP accounting. A lot of you are familiar with it, as monitored and regulated by the Financial Accounting Standards Board. That convenes a couple of times a year somewhere in Washington. In USA, I'm guessing, around accounting rules that, if you break some of those rules, especially on taxes, well, heck, you can go to jail. There's no such thing for OKRs. There are no such rigid rules or a governing body, right? There are just a couple of easy principles and guideposts. They are adaptable and flexible, and they are there to fit the context of your organization. Isn't that refreshing, right? So everything you're going to hear is just best practices and not something that you have to make rigid. And look, before we go on to talk about John Doerr, I just want to say, look, the performance of any organization is linked directly to the performance of your people. if your people are relegated to those poor statistics we saw in a couple of slides ago, and if your people are not performing or not effective, they're not aligned, well, the performance of your company is directly a function of that, right? So be careful. If you're not using objectives and key results, um, consider that as the magic wand, sort of from a management effectiveness perspective. Companies that use OKRs, before we get to the John Doerr section, any kind of company, you know, from a consulting company like Accenture to high-tech companies like Amazon, Adobe, well, heck, BMW uses OKRs. Isn't that amazing? The Department of the Navy of the United States of America has a team that uses OKRs, right? I spoke to someone and I learned that. Obviously, Google and a lot of other companies, but not all high-tech. And Anheuser-Busch, right? If you like beer, well, they use OKRs, right? And a lot of other different companies. There's no one industry. Of course, high tech is sort of the early adopter, but just keep that in mind. It's really everywhere today. So John Doerr's insights. That's what we're all here for. 20 minutes into this webinar, we're finally getting to what you all came to hear, and here it is. It starts with John Doerr talks about how he started his work at Intel, and how Andy Grove was a brilliant Intel executive, and he had this regular training for everyone at Intel, and the core component of that was using objectives and key results. And he took objectives and key results, but what he called it at that time was Intel MBOs, IMBOs, right? But John Doerr renamed them objectives and key results because when Andy Grove trained on OKRs, he said, look, these are Intel MBOs, and typically first you talk about an objective, and there will be some key results which measure the progress towards that objective. And John Doerr just combined those together and called it OKRs to differentiate from MBOs, because Peter Drucker wrote about MBOs in the 60s, and MBOs are great. Everybody in every organization say, we got to set up your MBOs, your objectives. But OKRs became the modernized and improved edition of MBOs. And so John Doerr named them OKRs based on everything Andy Grove taught him. So the way John Doerr defines OKRs is, they're a management methodology that helps to ensure that company focuses efforts on the same important issues throughout the organization. Objectives and key results are a collaborative goal-setting protocol for companies, teams, and individuals. Ideas are easy, but it's execution that's everything. OKRs help with better execution. And he's totally right. And by the way, I do want to say pretty much all of these slides in the John Doerr section are verbatim, quoted out of his book. And some areas were from some of the videos he had even prior to launching this book. So consider all of this basically verbatim from John Doerr. I'm not taking any credit for that, just to be clear. And some of them are just slightly paraphrased to make it read better in a bullet point, but it's all from John Doerr. The next thing is he talks about the 4 superpowers in his amazing book. And the first one is this: focus and commit to your priorities. The second superpower is this: align and connect for the teamwork at your company, right? Like when you align everyone, you're connecting everyone to what matters, you really get this great teamwork working in sync. Third superpower is the trekking for accountability. So accountability at your company. And the fourth is you're stretching with having ambitious goals to achieve this amazing result. And in a nutshell, this is my kind of summary, nutshell of John Doerr's points: is focus, alignment, accountability, and acceleration, right? Acceleration towards these aspirational stretch goals, right? That is the only way that can be measured to achieve meaningful acceleration results at your organization, is with using aspirational objectives, and in this case, OKRs, right? Continuing on John Doerr's definitions of the O's and the KRs, O's being objectives and KRs being key results. The objective is simply what is to be achieved. It's significant, concrete, and action-oriented. He calls them a vaccine against fuzzy thinking. That's what your objective is. Instead of that fuzzy thinking, which is that 95% of people, that Harvard Business School statistic, Harvard Business Review statistic, the fuzzy thinking, is when 95% of people don't actually understand what the goals of the organization are or what their own goals are. That's fuzzy thinking. But when you have clear objectives, that communicates what the priority is, right? So the objective is the direction, right? And the key results are the benchmark and monitor how we get to the objective, right? So if the objective is, grow our, business globally to $100 million in sales or something, or even simply, you're allowed in OKRs to make it a qualitative headline of just grow our business, right? The key results are the numbers, the measurable pieces. And by the way, they don't always have to be the numbers. John Doerr talks about you can have milestones, and they're still measurable because in the end you can measure a milestone like launch this trade show, and you either launched it or you didn't, but you're far better off making it more quantitative, not merely measurable, right? So measurable and quantitative are synonymous but not exact. So measurable, you can measure yes or no, done or not done, complete or incomplete, but quantified is when you actually put numbers in there. The better key results have numbers, right? And but you can still make them milestones, which is measurable. In many cases, when you start using OKRs, you don't want to, you can't have everything quantified because you're just starting out and baselining and learning, and you don't want to overcomplicate things because done is better than perfect, right? Perfect is the enemy of good enough. But you want to attain the mastery of OKRs where your key results have as much quantification as possible as you begin getting better and better at OKRs quarter after quarter. Sometimes John Doerr even talked about taking 5 or 6 quarters into using OKRs to get pretty good at them and acclimated to using them. Look, OKRs should be succinct, specific, and measurable. The KRs typically include hard numbers. So moving on, you basically summarize like this, and John Doerr had this in one of the articles in Business Insider, perhaps, that he summarized this formula for OKRs is you say, we want to, and then you state the objective, whether it's grow our business globally or grow our company sales to 100 million, whatever it is, that's your objective. And then you say, as measured by these key results. The first key result would be, yeah, indeed, 100 million in revenue or sales, right? The second one could be, customer satisfaction rating of, 95%. And by the way, yes, like you've grown the business to 100 million, but without the 95%, you probably won't get to it. So you can see gets interesting how you can combine key results because they could be slightly codependent. And that's maybe a more advanced topic. But going back to John Doerr and value proposition this time and benefits of OKRs. So we talked about superpowers, but these are more kind of details that he hashes out throughout the book. He says, look, it's about achievement orientation. If you're an achievement-oriented company, right, you are supposed to use OKRs because they'll help you. By the way, I see a couple of questions here. Somebody asking about SMART goals. Fine, I'll answer it right now, real time. If we won't wait till the end because I think it's relevant based on the prior slide. Let me jump to that, or a couple slides ago. So SMART goal is simply specific, measurable. And A could stand for attainable or aggressive, R could stand for reachable or relevant, and T is time-based. Look, SMART just is an acronym to define that something should be specific and it should be measurable, and of course it should be attainable because why would you set it if it's not, and or aggressive because you want to reach, and and reachable or relevant or whatever, and time-based. Does that remind you of something you see on this page? Well, that's how you write a key result. A key result is, by definition, SMART because it has all those things. It's specific, it's measurable, etc. It's a SMART goal. Key result is a SMART goal. But an objective, it's more of a headline and big picture so that everybody can get excited by it and understand it. The key results are just more specific and measurable. But there, SMART goals don't have some of the categorization that OKRs bring into light. For example, they're categorized as something that you should make transparent throughout the whole company. SMART goals were simply about being smart. There's nothing about transparent in SMART goals. You could make them so, but that's not how SMART goals came about. So OKRs and SMART goals, in many ways, all of these things are very, very similar. MBOs, SMART goals, OKRs. Some people even ask KPIs, right? And by the way, we're kind of deviating from the presentation, but I do want to make it clear. Look at KPI, revenue growth is a key performance indicator, but key performance indicator has always meant something that you look at retrospectively, so backwards. But when you set a key performance indicator as a target, meaning forward looking, that's basically your OKR, or more specifically, key result. So revenue growth of 100%, that's a key result under the objective of, explode our business globally this year, right? And I may be over confusing things, but let's get back to John Doerr, and hopefully, by the way, that was helpful to Dulai, who has this question. Surface, OKRs, the benefits is they surface your primary goals and channel efforts and coordination. They link diverse operations, right? They lend purpose and unity to the company. For anyone striving for high performance in the workplace, goals are very necessary. Without goals, you're not achieving high performance. You're not even on the same page, whether you realize it or not. Specific hard goals produce a higher level of output. That links back to the research done by Google and published on Rework, their website. Productivity is enhanced by well-defined, challenging goals. A 2-year Deloitte consulting study found that no single factor has more impact than clearly defined goals that are written down and shared freely across the company. Goals create alignment, clarity, and job satisfaction because people know clearly how what they're working on connects to what matters to the company. That's the big, engagement and satisfaction at work. Managers become coaches, mentors, and architects. Actions and data speak louder than words. So your managers become more effective when they set objectives and make it clear to employees how these objectives connect to what matters to the company. Setting OKRs, he talks about bottoms up versus top down in terms of, does the CEO set all the objectives for everyone? Or does your manager set your objectives and that means from top down? And does it only cascade from the top down directly? And what he really says makes sense because goals are to be, well, they're to be thoroughly cascaded. Of course, they have to be meaningful and align directionally to what matters to the company, of course. They are heavily driven from the top, right? You're not just inviting employees and saying there's no top goals, but hey, everyone, come up with your random goals out of nowhere. That can't happen. So, of course, they're top heavy, but with input from below, what I refer to as sort of tapping into the collective wisdom of your employees. Remember, Steve Jobs said, very meaningfully that, we don't hire smart people to tell them what to do. We hire smart people so that they can tell us what to do. What it really means is you tap into their wisdom, into their experience and say, look, these are the top things at the company level that we need to achieve or this department or business unit level. But hey, can you come up with your goals and measurements and then bring it to me so we can discuss based on what you think you can do to achieve it? And of course, the manager has needs to, review these objectives so they're not very heavily, authoritatively dictated from the top, but there's definitely input. But so basically, John Doerr says you can tell people to clean up a mess, kind of a goal, but should you be telling them which broom to use? And that's the point of, you grab your own broom, tell me what your goals should be, but I can sort of give you an overarching direction from the top of what our goals are. He says it's a critical tool, right? And especially he gave this example in crisis situation. At Intel, this was Operation Crash. So generally, in a crisis, you need a system that can drive transformation quickly. And he gave this example of how like all these layers of management all across Intel and hundreds of employees were able to turn on a dime into a new direction based on this urgency that they had in this crisis situation with this Operation Crash that they launched to turn Intel around. And he said it was unbelievable. That's what Key Results did for Intel. He gave management a tool for rapid implementation. He said you couldn't imagine, he could not see like any other way how you could take the entire company and turn that big ship, around. It's not a speedboat, it's a big ship, right? Turn it in a different direction quickly. And you could have only done it with OKRs. Literally in like 1 day's presentation on the new OKRs, everybody understood how everything needed to happen. It's magical, right? He tells a story about Operation Crash, right? He closes the chapter saying today tens of billions of microcontrollers and computers, cars, thermostats, blood banks, centrifuges, all run on Intel architecture. As we've seen, none of this would have happened without OKRs because Intel would not have been successful unless they ran that Operation Crash with OKR's help. Amazing, amazing, right? Think about that. Let that sink in. It's a simple tool for any company. At small companies, they're a survivor tool. At mid-sized company, rapidly growing companies, they're a shared language for execution, and they clarify expectations. At larger companies, OKRs are neon lit road signs. They demolish silos and enable connections among all of the far-flung contributors, right? That's alignment across the entire company, right? And cross-functional alignment too. OKRs were constant reminders of what our teams needed to be doing. They told us precisely what we were achieving or not. How many of you as executives or managers can say that about your organization, right? If you get everybody pointing in the same direction, you maximize results, right? OKRs do that. I relied on OKRs to communicate more clearly and help my team get our most important work done. He refers to OKRs as a Swiss Army knife suited for any environment. He then talks about next as a must-have, not just a simple tool for any company, but a must-have for every company today. I couldn't imagine there would be any other way to manage and lead a high-growth, operationally excellent company, right? Or working at Intel, using OKRs. He also says OKRs can help set the culture of your company, right? If you want to be a high-performance culture, introduce OKRs, and you're it. It'll help introduce a language to the company. Companies are turning to OKRs, and also, and we'll cover this in a couple of slides, conversations, feedback, and recognition, which are directly tied into OKR usage as well, as tools for culture change. Goal alignment, transparency, check-ins on these progresses of your goals, coaching based on your employees making progress towards the goal, and development. These are all replacing the hierarchical structure, right? And it makes it easier to manage your company, right? On transparency of goals, he says research shows that public goals are more likely to be attained than goals that are not visible to everyone, right? So simply flipping the switch to open, quote unquote, lifts achievement across the entire company, right? In an OKR system, the most junior staff can now look at everyone's goals on up to the CEO, right? This transparency enhances the results. And he said there's research for this. He said if you don't measure it, it doesn't matter, meaning if you measure it, it matters to the company and everybody actually executes on it. And if you don't measure it, it won't get done. Then he says everybody does OKRs. One of the essential qualities is everybody does them, everybody. I showed you logos earlier that, you have technology companies, car companies like BMW, even, government agencies, everyone uses them. Many early adopters were from tech world, but companies from all industries have them. Regardless of the size of your company or your life stage, right, you can begin the continuous management improvement process with OKRs. And in some, objectives and key results are a potent, proven force for operating excellence. For Google, so why not for you? It's not a silver bullet, though, and I promised to mention this earlier. It's a magic wand, but not a silver bullet. He says basically, look, it's not some kind of a silver bullet. It's a powerful, clear, empowering communication tool to get transparency, accountability, and a lot of enthusiasm about what is that's really important, right? But this is nothing more than a system to prioritize and communicate and to get everybody's efforts focused on the few things that really, truly matter most. If the fundamentals of strong leadership and sound judgment are in place, OKRs can guide you to the mountaintop, right? That's pretty powerful stuff. Right? This is all for you here on the webinar. He said that the CEO's commitment to OKRs is critical. OKRs require a public commitment by leadership in word and deed. Means if you're not doing it, it won't work at your company. This system works provided the leadership of the company embraces it. If the CEO of the company doesn't believe in OKRs and won't pursue them, I suggest you not try, right? If the leader of the organization or the team sets personal OKRs as well as group OKRs, I dare say this is the most powerful tool you can have to achieve operating excellence and high performance in your organization. An organization, by the way, for everyone here, is not just your company, it's also your team, your business unit, your group, whatever it is at any level, small or large. Things to keep in mind: the key for any team or any group is that you use it on a regular written basis. Over the course of several periods, you and your team can get much better, which means that don't expect, to be perfect in the first, second, third, or fourth quarter. It could take up to a year and a half, but if you don't get started, you're not improving. And like everything else, managing any people or management as a practice, it takes time to get good at it, right? It's just normal. It's natural. If your sales force has got a revenue number that's certainly important to being an objective, key result somewhere in the system, it's not okay to miss the revenue forecast. So don't make it too aspirational, right? Just let that be known that on that one, it's an operational objective, right? You're going to measure it to 100%. By the way, the sales force is going to be paid commission based on whether they achieve it or not, right? Which means that when you read there's a lot of stuff on the internet, and John Doerr is ultimately the I guess the godfather of OKRs, right? He is in my opinion, since he basically took OKRs from the inventor of OKRs, which is Andy Grove, who took it in turn from Peter Drucker's MBOs. I would say John Doerr is the final authority on OKRs. You'll read a lot in different blogs and random posts from people who have tried and dabbled in OKRs. That hey, you should set them that if you achieve 70%, you should feel good. That's completely impractical. And I think what John Doerr says is the correct, proper way to do it. Don't go with people who've never actually done them before, and go with John Doerr, because he makes a very profound statement here that yes, a lot of times you want some incredible aspirational moonshot goals, and other times you want operational commit goals. So that's the practical approach. Um, OKRs are a tool to help you. They're not meant to be strict, right? Or chains or blinders. They're adaptable. They're meant to be helpful, not unhelpful. They're not the only thing you do, but the must do, right? So don't think of like OKRs are the only thing we'll accomplish in the company. They're the must do things, right? You'll accomplish others, but they're the ones you emphasize. OKRs ultimately are about focus. They're not everything that happens in the entire company, right? They're not the sum of everything, right? They're just the most important. These must be done, come hell or high water. We have to do this, right? We have to overly emphasize and put emphasis. That's your OKRs. They're the things that you, the leaders of the company, have decided truly matter and want special focus and intention. The what and how and when, it may make sense to ease into them. A lot of people try to be perfect. Try to do them. Done is better than perfect, right? Just get going. Ease into them. Take time, right? Don't try to make it perfect right away. That's one of the biggest mistakes. There's no religion, no one size fits all. So again, when you hear people tell you like you have to do it just this way or else, that's really, the opposite of what John Doerr is trying to tell you and what Andy Grove and Peter Drucker said, right? That's like overcomplicating things. The best OKR cadence is the one that fits your context and culture. John Doerr mentions the Andy Grove sort of basic OKR hygiene. Less is more. So fewer goals are better than having, 1,000 goals. That doesn't make any sense. Just have, a couple of them. Set goals from bottom up, right? That's the bottom up approach. Not purely from bottom up, but allow for that to happen. No dictating, stay flexible, dare to fail, set big goals. It's a tool, not a weapon, and be patient, be resolute, right? Don't expect miracles on day one. John Doerr also talks about CFRs, conversations, feedback, and recognition. Ultimately, it's about what are goals for? They're for the purpose of managing performance of your people, which basically, as we talked about earlier, is directly impacting the performance of your organization. If you're not doing continuous performance conversations of your goal, giving feedback on your goals, giving recognition for progress on your goals, you're not really using OKRs correctly. So you should be applying this special method of CFRs. So, and what are the check-ins in CFRs? It's they've become prevalent, more prevalent as managers are evolving from giving you tasks to actually coaching and managing you and mentoring you by setting objectives, right? Instead of task management and micromanagement. And you can have these types of conversations listed here, right? Goal setting conversation, coaching, etc., all with the help of setting OKRs and then doing the process of CFR, right? On questions linking OKRs to compensation, he basically says, listen, OKRs will influence your performance rating and bonus or compensation and growth and promotion, but they don't determine it like in full, right? Is just one factor out of several. And this is a more complicated topic, but basically, you're not supposed to take your OKRs for someone and say, you achieved only 80% of it, so you're going to get paid 80% of your bonus. That's not intended to be like that. It's intended to also make people aspire and not be afraid to fail, right? But in the end, like, you'll take them into account, and they may be, um, a fifth or a sixth of the factor that goes into determining compensation. Your communication skills and team play, team skills, etc. They also play a relevant thing, a relevant component of figuring out what your compensation should be. So, but wait, there's more. I want to kind of walk you through a couple of things. When you start to use OKRs to enhance the lessons you learned from John Doerr. Look, less is more. We talked about it earlier. And this is Andy Grove. He talked about it in his book that, look, if you try to focus on everything, we focus on nothing. That's why OKRs call out and emphasize the few things at every level of the organization, corporate level at the top for the CEO, for sales, for marketing, they have their own, for product team, support team, they have their own, operations team, they have their own, each team, sub team and sub team and, regional team, they all have their own and they all directionally align to what matters to the company. But at each level, you have just a couple. The key is to set and use them frequently, right? If you're just setting and forgetting, it will not work, right? There's research saying that the more you check in, more frequently you check in, meaning, if you don't check in on them once a quarter, but, check in more regularly and even weekly for 5 minutes, every manager, you're a manager, you have 10 employees under you, between 5 and 10 employees, you just spend really 5 minutes per employee to check in on their employee progress. That's it. But the outcome is just absolutely prodigious. It's huge. There's a ton of research from Gallup that the biggest impact on performance and results is when goals are combined with those check-ins and feedback and recognition we talked about earlier. How many? Well, typically 3 to 5 objectives every quarter, and under each objective, 3 to 5 key results. That's it. Keep it simple. Right, and it's at every level, right? It's not like only 3 to 5 objectives for the entire company of 1,000 people. That's 3 to 5 for the corporate, and every business unit and every team and sub-team will have their own. The keys to success, this is kind of my thinking, is use discretion, use common sense, right? And there's a famous phrase that, common sense is not so common. Just pay attention to that, right? Make sure people are using common sense and not overcomplicating things. And walk before you run. Take time, as John Doerr said, ease into them. Another key concept is don't confuse goals or OKRs, objectives and key results, with tasks, right? Tasks are activity, right? Don't mistake activity with results. Goals are about the end result, the final outcome. His definition is here. You have to complete a task is just something you do. A project is an initiative. It's a lot of different tasks, combined to complete a project. A goal is the desired future state. It's the result you want to have as a result of doing a lot of the projects and tasks. So in the end, as a result of these projects and tasks, you want the result to be, and that's what your OKR is, right? That's, in fact, more specifically, that's the key result. You have to complete a lot of projects to get that final outcome in the end, which is what goals are. So goals are definitely not tasks. Any to-do lists or putting your goals in a calendar, that makes no sense. Goals are not tasks. So they're not task lists or to-do lists. We have screenshots from Trello, which is a great activity or task tracking tool or project tracking. Jira, Asana, Microsoft Project. These have absolutely nothing to do with being goals. They're not OKRs. These are projects and tasks that you execute on a daily basis. But in the end, what you're measuring is results. So goals are a little bit different. They're like, a couple of levels above tasks. They're the ones sitting at the top, at the mountaintop, right? And everything else you do to climb to that mountain can be done with these tools. But none of them are meant for tracking goals. Keep in mind the alignment happens by, this is a screenshot right out of our own product. Again, we have a product called Atiim, Atiim, that's our company, Atiim OKR software, and you can align goals. It looks like a hierarchy of like an org chart, organizational chart. But this has nothing to do with actual who reports to whom, but more about which goals align to which goal. And you could have cross alignment in the organization. When you implement OKRs, start your meetings with OKRs. Again, a screenshot from our own product. A lot of people are, finding using Excel or PowerPoint to track goals is incredibly expensive and cumbersome on people's time and frustration. It just doesn't work. It doesn't scale. So they use a software like ours, right? And you can start every meeting with goals and seeing the progress chart and the success predictors, whether your goal is going to be achieved, like you see in the chart here, and the trajectory where you're located at any point in time, where your goals are versus where they should be at that point in time. You can identify problem areas early, so before it's a quarter too late or a year too late. Every week you can have a quick snapshot in the dashboard, and you can be 1,000 or a million times more effective as an executive, as a manager, knowing where things are in the red, where goals are at risk. And you can have cross-functional alignment and praise and recognize people. That's part of that CFR, conversations, feedback, and recognition. I created this cycle of effective management based on probably easily over 50 books of research on management and how our product is built from the ground up to make every organization more effective and enable for every organization to make all of your managers in your entire company more effective, starting with setting OKRs right here, checking in on progress and allowing your managers to do quick check-ins in the dashboard, and provide feedback to people and recognition and reviews and snapshots of where people stand. So your company is much more in sync, focused on what truly matters, and you can accelerate results via that. So as I'm ending this webinar, I hope that was insightful for you all. I want to answer a couple of questions here, and I'm going to read these questions and answer them. And if you want a live demo of our software and see how you can implement all the best practices that John Doerr discusses, and both in his book. Again, I highly recommend you buy it. Measure What Matters, and throughout all of the information he published prior to publishing this book, you can do that with using software like ours. If you want a live demo, please email us at cdemo@atiim.com. ATIIM, and you can just email us hi. When you do that, one of our sales reps, and I know like everybody hates the word sales, but they're not trying to force you to do anything. That's just their job to follow up and assign you to get a demo. And they are very helpful. They answer a lot of questions as well. They're not like the hard sell people you think about. And you can get a free goals consultation for your company. Get some customer case studies, and oh, by the way, when you email us here, we'll send you a copy of this presentation as well. Right? So if you want to see a live demo, just email us hi, and you'll get part of that presentation. So to answer a couple of questions, let's do that. So first of all, and by the way, I do want to mention that we have image sources just to make sure we give credit to all the images used here. We want to be fair and honest and give copyright to where we took the images. So people say, Simon here asks, is your product linked to how people get paid? No, absolutely not. Under no circumstances do you want to link your OKRs to how people get paid. That's exactly what John Doerr says. He actually used the word divorce OKRs from how people get paid, and people should be told about how they get paid in a separate conversation. That's really critical than when you're discussing their progress on OKRs. And again, OKRs will be anywhere between a third to a fifth or a sixth of the factor in what you kind of figure out what people's pay should be. But you definitely don't want to make it like the priority and link it to compensation. That goes against one of the few hard rules that John Doerr, I think, has, right? Simon also asked, doing bottom-up goals look like are largely top-down? Yes, they are. They're largely top-down, but meaning that the organization at the top says the priorities and OKRs, but then you tap into the wisdom of the team. How do they come up? Every manager Just like it really just mirrors how you manage people. When you manage people, an effective manager will ask, about this project. How, what do you think we can do to accomplish it effectively? You don't tell them go do this and this in the project. It goes back to the quote that John Doerr had about, you can tell people to clean up, but don't tell them what broom to use, right? That's micromanagement. And Simon, you have a lot of great questions here. I definitely think you should email us and we can cover more. But you've asked. I've heard that you should start with just the exec team. Absolutely, great point, Simon. You should start with just the executive team first. John Doerr says ease in, right? And he talks about starting what he calls like a pilot group, meaning start with executives, right? 100% totally agree with that. In fact, most of our customers, we have customers globally. Actually, it almost sounds like the people that joined us are coming exactly from the countries and continents where we have customers. We have customers in South Africa and India as well, in Australia, etc. But yeah, they all start out, with just the executive team and maybe like the team under the executive team, kind of mid-level managers or general managers. John says it's important not to link OKRs to bonuses. Yes. What do you pay people on again, Simon? He's not saying don't pay people using goals at all. He's not saying that. He says don't. He says basically don't make your pay 100% a function of your achievement of OKRs. He's saying OKRs, obviously goals are part of that, right? But they're not 100%. There's other things that go into the conversation, right? Your communication skills, your team player abilities, your potential, your ability to turn around, even though you didn't achieve the goals, but you made an incredible, immense, progress, getting trained and coached up and making new progress towards new goals, right? You can't just, compensate people exclusively. Oh, you made 80% of these goals, so you're only going to get 80% of your $1,000 bonus or something. I hope that makes sense. And if you want to talk more about it, we can definitely cover that. John Hansen says, well done. Thank you, John. Appreciate it. You said contact info. So yeah, that's the email address here. If anybody wants to contact me directly, I do respond to every email from customers for sure. I even give all of our customers my personal cell phone number. I'm actually the chief executive officer of the company, and I'm extremely passionate about this subject matter. But if you're a prospective customer and you have questions, I'll be delighted to help you and answer them. How do OKRs differ from SMART goals? We covered that. Okay. So Dulal said, will these slides be shared? Yes, and Dulal left, so hopefully he'll email us. Same questions about tying back to bonuses. So yeah, I think we covered everything. Let's see if there's any remaining questions, and if not, I can, give the remaining 5 minutes back to your day. So any other hard questions here? I mean, there's a lot more. Keep an eye out on our webinars. We will have some more advanced webinars that go well beyond kind of the high level best practices that John Doerr does an amazing job of introducing us all to. We also, for all of our customers, we actually help you onboard not only to our product, but to OKRs. We give you training. We even help you come up with objectives and key results. We pressure test them and help audit them on your behalf at no extra cost. We just really, our goal is to make our customers successful. We truly go out of our way to, and I say that genuinely, sincerely, not to kind of market ourselves by any means. And I know it does it anyway, but my desire here is authentic, is to say we're so passionate about the subject matter. We love it. We feel it helps our customers focus everyone, align, and really achieve acceleration and scaling results, right? Scale your company and growth in a way that's not possible merely just by day-to-day task or micromanagement or just management by walking around. Truly a magic wand. And we help people realize that their companies, we are their ongoing sort of right-hand person on OKRs. A lot of our executives and CEOs come back to us throughout the quarter and the year to ping with random questions and some pragmatic insights on how to do something. And we're there for you. We have customer success team that's an expert in OKRs. They're trained for hours. For the first couple of months when they come into our company and get certified internally to become domain experts on OKRs, on pitfalls and problems that companies should avoid. So we know a ton of stuff from working with hundreds of companies, and we have thousands and thousands of users globally. So we're excited about it, and we try to help our customers with that. So with no further ado, it looks like no further questions here. Actually, no. Daksha said, can you please share sample templates and OKRs for better? Yes. Oh, so if you want, go to, we created a public website called OKR-examples, OKR-examples.com, or you can just go to our own website, atiim.com, A-T-I-I-M, as you see, URL is inside the email. And we have OKRs one-on-one there. You can download these ebooks, and there's a ton of OKR examples in the resources pull-down menu, or just go to OKR-examples. And we will help you. Again, if you want to use software to accelerate and scale this and make it super easy at your company, we will help you wordsmith your OKR. So you almost have to do nothing. We handhold you in a way that makes it extremely simple. All right, very good. Thank you so much for everyone's time. John Potter, thank you. You said great info. I appreciate that feedback. And I look forward to hopefully meeting some of you as customers. So Simon says, do we do OKR consulting? We do for our customers, or we recommend one of our partners who are consultants. You know, we work with, Ben Lamort, who wrote a great book with Paul Niven, OKRs. It's an advanced version of John Doerr's book. So we work with Paul Niven and Ben Lamort. They are both incredible experts in strategy and OKRs. But we also help you as well if you don't want to, go deep with a consultant. We help you absolutely. And Holly said, loving OKRs. Holly, fantastic. Thank you for saying that. We feel just as passionate about it as you do. We should probably create like a sticker, loving OKRs or something like that. But I think that's that. I guess one thing I'll say, that if anybody has not read the book and you want to get the software, we do send a copy of this book now, Measure What Matters, or the OKRs book from Ben Lamort and Paul Niven, to every one of our customers, to the CEO. So you can get a free book with acquiring software package for a year to help you do OKRs internally. Anyway, thank you all so much. It was great to meet you all here with your questions. They were fabulous, and I look forward to seeing you on other webinars. Take care and have a great day. Bye-bye.